Father, just ask you to bless us tonight as we meet together. Good things will happen from the meeting that will help our kids be safe and a successful year. Father, bless each and every one that's here tonight. May everything that we do in accordance with your will. These things we ask in Jesus' name.
Next, we'll move to district growth update.
You might have seen the article in the Dallas Morning News. It was about the new boom towns, and it was pretty much the towns were in our local area that are around the DFW area. This is a look at the state. You can see that the biggest growth in the state is around the DFW area, the Houston area, Austin, and San Antonio. And the red is actually enrollment decline. So that's Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. And then the colors around it are where it's really starting to grow. So if you look a little closer at ours, you can see that all the growth has been to the north. We know that, and it's been creeping to the east. Well, now it's coming our direction, and you see that Godley ISD is right there outside of the Fort Worth area. And that's what's driving our growth. So far, we've been able to deal with it. We're growing at 150, 160, but if you see here just in a few years, we're going to be gaining 500, 600, 700 kids a year, almost 800 a year. And that's when we're really going to start feeling it. So we are currently making plans to get ready for that growth. That's a look at our district from our demographic study. You see those current developments and future developments. That's a look at the city's engineering study. Again, a lot of those are future developments, especially the big ones. You can see we're definitely growing. So this is an update from our demographer from just last week. And these are all schools in Region 11. And you see Godley down at 23. When I first saw it, I said, well, what's Godley doing that low? We're growing fast. Well, then I recognized that this was the first slide of 3 slides, because there's 76 ISDs in Region 11 around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So that still puts us pretty high. This is a look at the 5-year longitudinal growth. So you can see that we're at number 11. So, and again, that's in all of those 76. But you look here, that's actually total number of students added to the district at 710 over the last 5 years. We're number 11 in the area. But if you look at it percentage-wise, we're at number 4 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So in one of the fastest growth areas in the state, we're one of the fastest growth school districts, and that's what we're trying to get ready for. And that's, again, that's a look at what we're trying to prepare for. So that's just a quick growth update.
All right, thank you. Recognition, we will not have recognition tonight. Next, we'll consider donation acceptance.
Would that be Mr. Flood or Ms. Nix? Tell us a little bit about the plasma cutter.
Good evening, board. So Colorado River Components was upgrading their plasma cutter in their facility and had a connection to one of our FFA students. They in turn had a conversation, and Colorado River Components donated their outgoing piece of equipment that is still in really, really great condition. They value it used at over $50,000. So that has been added to the programming in our ag area for students to use. We have a plasma cutter, but this one cuts metal that's much thicker and expands the possibilities for what they can create and make inside of the ag shop.
Yeah, so our old plasma cutter was a 3x8 roughly, and this one's an 8x20. So we cut much bigger pieces of metal on it to make it work. So we're having to get a specialist to come tell us the qualifications to hook it up, because it requires some stuff to make it work. But it's really cool that these FFA kids are the ones that made it all happen. A junior and a senior this year that had connections with Colorado River, so it's really cool they made it happen.
So question for you, have we identified the space to be able to accommodate that size of cutter?
We have been in conversations with Huckabee and talked about the welding space in the new building. And if that's not an option, then we'll look at space in our current building and find a way to make it work.
When would we anticipate taking possession?
We already have possession. It's on our property currently.
Thank you.
We just wanted to recognize them. You guys don't have to officially approve it or accept it. I've already accepted it, but we just wanted to let you guys know and recognize them. And we hope to maybe use it to cut them something and give them something that our kids have made. So sorry.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into the public participation portion of the meeting. Before we get started this evening, I want to reiterate that pursuant to board policy BED local, the board is active within its authority to delegate certain duties and responsibilities to Superintendent Dr. Deere. As a member of the team of A, Dr. Deere has been granted authority to assist in participating in and regulating board meetings. Next, there have been several instances over the past several board meetings where members of the public interrupt board proceedings to make comments. I want to remind you all that BED local states that the board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience. And should this disruption continue, you may be removed from the meeting. Further, audience participation is limited to public comment only. Finally, the right to call point of order is reserved for members of the board. The presider of the meeting and his delegates have the duty of maintaining order and ensuring correct procedures are followed. At this time, we extend the opportunity for the public participation portion of this meeting in compliance with Section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code. We have one person wishing to address the board tonight. Public participation provides the general public the opportunity to address the board regarding topics listed on the agenda. Persons attending the meeting and wishing to participate in a public forum must complete a sign-up form and submit the form to the board secretary prior to the meeting being convened. Each individual addressing the board will have 3 minutes to make their presentation. Personal attacks on district employees or students will not be allowed. All participants are expected to speak with respect and civility and maintain a calm, supportive demeanor. At this time, I would like to call on Lauren Pate. She will be speaking on 11B transportation update.
There should be a microphone there for you, Ms. Payne. You gotta turn it on. Wait a second.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I have some questions about our transportation, and my 7th graders were on a field trip today to the Holocaust Museum, and I received photos from my 7th grade daughter concerned for her safety because they were sitting 3 to a seat, and were some of them out in the aisle for a 65-mile one-way trip to Dallas in the rain at speeds of in excess of 65 miles an hour. And so my question is, how do we determine what a safe capacity for a bus is? Is that determined by weight? If it's determined by weight, our students wait before they get on, and a running tally kept to ensure that we're not going over by weight. The NTSB and the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority recommends that every student, every passenger be completely within the confines of the seat, because school buses depend on compartmentalization to keep our children safe. And compartmentalization only works when they are entirely contained within the parameters of that seat and the seat back in front of them. There's like 36 pages of Texas rules and regulations governing what a school bus is made of, how it's designed, the padding, the thickness, all of those things that go right out the window when you have kids who are half on, half off of a seat. And so I want to know, how do we determine what a safe number of kids is? If If it's by weight, how is it distributed? Is it by number, certain number of students? If we meet both of those things, but you still have students hanging over in the aisle, how is that remedied? Is there alternative plans for if we don't have enough transportation? My daughter was told this morning that, too bad, this is all we have. And so that's how they went. And it's how they would have come home if I hadn't contacted Mr. Frazier and Mr. Carnes about alternative transportation, and they added a bus. So my question, and another question is, whose responsibility from the school is it to load those kids on the bus and then to look and go, wait a minute, this isn't safe. I can't see out the back door because I've got kids halfway in the aisle. I've got kids who are not contained properly. Whose job is it to stand up and go, wait a minute, we need another bus, we can't go like this, and how are we going to fix that problem? So those are all things that I would like for you guys to address at some point.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Ms. Patty, if you've got those questions, you can leave them here with us. Yes, ma'am.
At this time, the members of the board will move to agenda item number 9, which is to hear and consider a level 3 appeal filed by Kayla Lane. The board will conduct this hearing in open session. This board has retained Tommy Fisher to advise the board during the hearing. Mr. Fisher is not a fact finder, but will assist me in conducting the hearing and may advise the board on procedural aspects. Prior to the board holding a level 3 appeal hearing, the board will meet with its attorney to discuss the procedural steps and legal requests involved with this level 3 appeal hearing. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, we will adjourn into executive session at this time to meet with the board's attorney and will then reconvene in open session to conduct the hearing. The time is 6:15 p.m. board is returning to open session at 6:38 p.m. The board is now convened in open session for the purpose of hearing a Level 3 appeal filed by Kayla Lane. My name is Matt McKittrick. I'm president of the Board of Trustees at Godley ISD. For the record, today is November 14th, 2022. Just to confirm, the tape recorder is on. Okay. This proceeding will be tape recorded to ensure that an accurate record is kept. For purposes of the record, each person involved in the matter is asked to state their name, reason for attendance, and relationship to the grievant, if applicable. We will start with the board members. Again, my name is Matt McKittrick, board president, no relation to Ms. Lane.
Krista Heiner, trustee, no relation.
Terry Goodlow, trustee, no relation.
Craig Stevenson, trustee, no relation.
Marissa Abbott, trustee, no relation.
Dennis McFarland, trustee, no relation.
Greg Miller, trustee, no relation.
For the record, a quorum is present. Will the individuals present please state your name, role, in relation to the grievant?
Katie Pesco, attorney for the district.
Rich Deere, superintendent, no relation.
Jason Carnes, assistant superintendent, no relation.
Kayla Lane, parent.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to instruct all participants to please avoid talking when another person is speaking so that the tape recording will accurately reflect the proceedings. Further, please endeavor to make your oral statements as clear and complete as possible. Remember that the tape recording will not reflect gestures or any form of nonverbal communication. This hearing will be conducted as an administrative presentation in accordance with applicable policies and laws. It will be based on the record made from the previous hearings. The board members have been supplied with a copy of this record in advance of this hearing. No new evidence shall be presented. This record includes the Level 1 complaint, any additional documents presented at Level 1, the Level 1 response, and any documents the district relied upon to reach a decision at Level 1. The Level 2 appeal, any additional documents presented at Level 2, the Level 2 response, and any documents the district relied upon to reach a decision at Level 2. And finally, the Level 3 appeal. This is not a formal legal proceedings and no strict rules of evidence or procedure will apply. This hearing is an appeal to the board regarding a Level 2 grievance hearing at which the complainant's request for relief was denied. Each party will have an opportunity to make its presentation to the board. The parties will not be permitted to cross-examine each other. There will be an opportunity for the members of the board to ask questions of counsel or any presenter. However, the members of the board are not subject to questioning by either counsel or any person in attendance. The board's decision must be supported by the record made from the previous hearings, and no new evidence will be permitted, as previously stated. The vote will be taken in open session following the hearing this evening. Because this is an appeal of the decision of the Level 2 hearing, the complainant will present her argument based on the record first. This presentation will be followed by the administration side. Both the complainant and administration will be allocated 15 minutes to make their presentations. If the complainant or administration wishes to reserve a portion of the 15 minutes for rebuttal following the administration's presentation, that will be permitted. Does anyone have any questions as to how this hearing will be conducted? Now that we have reviewed the procedures for the hearing, it is time to determine the qualifications of the board member to hear and consider this matter. I will ask each member of the board whether you can consider the information presented at this hearing and make a decision in a fair and impartial manner. If any member of the board feels that he or she cannot do so, the board member should so state at this time and not participate in this hearing. Let the record reflect that each member of the board present has indicated that he or she can consider the information presented at this hearing and make a decision in a fair and impartial manner. Ms. Lane, will you be making your presentation? Okay, you have 15 minutes to make your presentation to the board. Tommy Fisher, our attorney for the Board of Trustees, will keep the time and will indicate to you when you have approximately 2 minutes left in your allotted time. Ms. Lane, you may proceed with your presentation at this time.
Thank you. Dr. Deere claimed to have been granted authority by the entire board to regulate public comment at board meetings, but failed to provide any resolution or other executed document via formal board approval supporting this claim. I asked for this both in my level 3 grievance filing and via an open records request in person and via email on October 4th, 2022. The district refuses to acknowledge my open records request. Dr. Deere is suppressing open communication, public comment between parents and the board during board meetings to maintain efficiency when no more than 3 parents have ever signed up to speak. Parental involvement in open forum, fostering communication, seems to be detrimental to the goals of this district in Dr. Deere's terms, efficiency. The district does not specify on the agenda what is actually being discussed in closed session. You list every open meeting exception of what you could potentially discuss, so you are not allowing the public an opportunity to give their thoughts on what those items are beforehand, which is what you are supposed to be doing per the Open Meetings Act. The public is not given an opportunity to speak at 6 p.m. to items deliberated in executive session. This violates HB 2840. The fact that you don't allow people to speak before executive session emphasizes the absurdity of anyone having to sign in by 6 p.m. to speak, as they're not afforded an opportunity to speak before executive session. The board meeting on August 15th, my speaker sheet was never picked up off the table. They also skipped agenda item public participation entirely. And when I called point of order, it was still ignored. Also, board meeting August 22nd, they picked the speaker sheets up early. At 5:57, I had to hand walk my sheet up to the board directly in order to speak. A picture of a comment card from August 22nd was submitted at my level 2 hearing. It's also in your board book. It shows how the district has perverted public comment signups. This shows the level of ridiculous behavior surrounding comment cards before board meetings. Comment cards are not handled in a consistent manner. Marcy Galley had to refill out her speaker sheet at the meeting after she pre-filled it with blank forms that we received from Jason Carnes at the level 1 hearing. The published agenda is not policy, and BED Local has not been updated to reflect public participation as outlined in HB 2840 passed in 2019. Because legal prevails over local when in conflict. See TASB guidance on HB 2840, which was also included as an exhibit in level 1. A new law on its effective date automatically takes legal precedence over any conflicting local policies or regulations. Therefore, the legal requirements in HB 2840 will be effective and controlling on September 1st, 2019, with or without the adoption of a new local policy. BED Legal requires school districts to provide an alternate path for public comments when the public forum does not allow for specific speech. I was not allowed to speak, and I was not provided another opportunity to provide my public comments to the board. This repeated behavior towards parents like myself, making it difficult or just downright refusing to let them speak, just goes to show how the board and administration repeatedly violates parents' First Amendment rights per the U.S. Constitution, Amendment L, XIV, which trumps any state law or local policy. As it states, a district shall take no action abridging the freedom of speech or the right of the people to petition the board for redress of grievances, and the Texas Constitution, which states, citizens shall have the right in a peaceable manner to assemble together for the common good and to apply to those invested with the powers of government for redress of grievances or other purposes by petition, address, or remonstrance. Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 27. Remonstrance definition, an expression of protest, complaint, or reproof, especially a formal statement of grievances. U.S. Constitution trumps state law, and state law trumps local policy. The district also cannot claim that an alternate process provided to allow free speech is the grievance process itself, because this process is set up primarily to correct low-level issues before board involvement. It is not meant to address or correct behavior that prevents free speech during board meetings in front of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. Will you be reserving your remaining time for rebuttal? Yes.
10 minutes and 15 seconds.
Members of the board, I'm going to ask that you hold your questions, if any, until conclusion of the presentation by both sides. Katie Pesco will be making the presentation on behalf of the administration. Ms. Pesco, you have 15 minutes to make your presentation on behalf of the administration. Again, Tommy Fisher, our attorney for the Board of Trustees, will keep the time and will indicate to you when you have approximately 2 minutes left in your allotted time. Ms. Pesco, you may proceed with your presentation at this time.
Thank you. President McKittrick, members of the board, like you just heard, my name is Katie Pesco, and I represent the administration in tonight's Level 3 grievance hearing. So, as you just heard, tonight's grievance centers around the claims that on the June 23rd board meeting, Dr. Deere refused to accept Ms. Lane's public comment card because it was filled out, signed, and turned in by another individual. The administration's response will be limited to the arguments set forth at her Level 1 and Level 2 grievances, so it might not respond to everything she just said right now. In her original complaint, Ms. Lane argued that board policy BED local does not state that another parent cannot turn in a public comment card on someone else's behalf. She further argues that it does not require the speaker to be the person who physically signs the form. The district firmly disagrees with these contentions. At Level 1, Ms. Lane initially requested that the district either allow parents to have until 7 p.m. to turn in the public comment cards, or alternatively, allow another individual to turn in the public comment cards on someone else's behalf. After carefully considering the evidence presented, the district denied Ms. Lane's requested remedies at Level 1. Godley ISD's board policy, BED local, states that individuals who wish to participate during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment shall sign up with the presiding officer or designee before the meeting begins. Additionally, the public agenda posted prior to the June 23rd meeting further clarified the district's procedures for public comment, stating that if you wish to participate in the public participation portion of this meeting, you must sign in with the presiding officer or designee before the 6 p.m. start time. Additionally, the comment card itself further states, if you wish to address the board during public participation regarding a specific item on tonight's agenda, please complete this card. Under Texas Education Code Section 11.151, the Board of Trustees has been given broad discretion over the operation of the district. This includes board meetings. Further, under Section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, a governmental body may adopt reasonable rules regarding the public's right to address the body, as the district has done here with its policies pertaining to public comment. Both the public agenda for the June 23rd board meeting and BED local are quite clear in their intended meaning. In each of these instances, the instructions are written directly to the individual wishing to speak during public comment. The instructions themselves state that the individual wishing to speak must fill out their comment card, note the issues they wish to address, and sign in with the presiding officer prior to the start of the board meeting. Nowhere in any of these policies are there instructions provided for individuals filling out public comment cards on behalf of someone else. Further, the district provides several other outlets to address concerns that are not on the agenda, or that the individual fails to address at a board meeting. This includes the grievance process and the Ask Godley ISD forum found on the district's website. Additionally, board meetings begin promptly at 6 p.m. Submitting comment cards in the middle of the meeting would significantly decrease the efficiency at which these meetings are run. Therefore, in denying Ms. Lane's requested remedies, the district was in compliance with both board policy BED local and the Texas Open Meetings Act. District Superintendent Dr. Deere heard Ms. Lane's appeal at Level 2. Her appeal requested the same remedies as Level 1, but described in further detail her issues with public comment, including setting forth allegations that Dr. Deere acts outside his authority by participating in board meetings, and further alleging that the failure to provide the public an opportunity to speak at 6 p.m. regarding items deliberated in closed session is a violation of House Bill 2840. After careful consideration and review of all the documentation and arguments presented by Ms. Lane, the district again denied her requested remedies. They reiterated that the language of BED local and the instructions printed on the board meeting agendas are very clear in their meaning, that individuals are expected to fill out their own comment cards and sign in with the presiding officer prior to the start of board meetings, and further asserting that the policy is clear that public comment cards must be submitted prior to the start of board meetings, which is 6 p.m. In addition to denying Ms. Lane's requested remedies, the district briefly touched on the other issues described by Ms. Lane in her grievance. First, the district noted that the board's duty is to govern and oversee the management of the district, and this includes board meetings. As such, the board has the authority and discretion to delegate certain duties and responsibilities to its superintendent, as you have done here with Dr. Deere, allowing him to assist during meetings. This is not a matter that is required to be publicly ruled upon, so long as it pleases the board. Next, the district informed Ms. Lane that her application of House Bill 2840 to the situation at hand is simply incorrect. House Bill 2840 was passed and became effective on September 1st, 2019. The district updated its BED legal policy in October 2019 to conform to the new laws, and then also updated its BED local policy in November 2019 to reflect the same changes. What House Bill 2840 did was amend the Texas Open Meetings Act to allow for public comment on agenda items. It provides that governmental bodies must allow members of the public to comment on the items listed on the agenda for open meetings of that body, either prior to or during the discussion of that agenda item. Please note that this bill only applies to open meetings of governmental bodies, not closed meetings, not executive sessions, which is what Ms. Lane references in her complaint. The district's policies accurately reflect this amendment to the Texas Open Meetings Act, as they discuss in great detail the guidelines for public participation at open board meetings. As such, the district and its policies remain in compliance with all relevant rules and regulations pertaining to the Texas Open Meetings Act and public comment at board meetings. Ms. Lane's claims and requested relief were carefully reviewed and considered at all levels. All cited legal authorities have been carefully analyzed and applied to the situation at hand. The district is in compliance with all applicable board policies and state laws. Therefore, it is the administration's position that the board should uphold the level 2 decision and deny all requested relief. Thank you.
Ms. Pesco, will you be reserving your time for rebuttal?
No, thank you.
In the event you need to rebut, there's 8 minutes and 32 seconds remaining.
Ms. Lane, you have 10 minutes, 15 seconds remaining for rebuttal.
Everything that I said tonight was said in my level 2 hearing, so I did not present or discuss any new evidence during my hearing. Also, I noticed how she used the term efficiency again, and like I have said before, no more than 3 parents have ever signed up to speak at a board meeting, so I don't understand the use of efficiency, because like I said, 3 times 3 minutes is 9 minutes. It's 9 minutes of your time to your parents. Also, like I stated, HB 2840, not allowing public comment at the beginning of the meeting, which is 6 p.m., goes against what HB 2840 is saying. And then other outlets, like I said, the grievance process cannot be claimed as an alternate process because it is a process to correct low-level issues before board involvement. It's not meant to address or correct behavior for anything during board meetings. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pesco, do you care for rebuttal?
No.
Thank you. Members of the board, are there any questions we need to address?
I have a question for the administration. Can you tell me if Mrs. Lane's children are currently enrolled in Godley ISD?
They are not.
Thank you.
I also have a question for the administration. This is specifically to Mrs. Pesco. Do districts customarily have a deadline to sign up for public participation prior to their board meetings?
Yes, I personally don't know of any districts that don't say that you have to turn in public participation cards prior to the meeting. That's generally standard. We have a lot of districts actually that require you to submit it even earlier, like noon, just to help with eliminating the chaos that can ensue from turning cards in right at the start of the meeting. So it's very customary for districts to have you submit them well in advance of the meeting. That's why the agendas are published 3 days before the meeting, so you kind of have time to look over everything and see what you want to comment about, and then you know well in advance whether or not you want to comment it.
Thank you.
Ms. Pesco, I want to make sure I heard you right earlier. Are we required to allow someone to speak who doesn't fill out the comment card themselves?
According to your policy, no, you are not.
Are there any more questions from the board? All right, if there are no more questions from the board members, this concludes the proceeding. The official recording will be ended at this time. The time is now 6:59 p.m. The board will remain in open session to deliberate the request of the grievant. Is there any discussion on the matter? Do I have a motion on the appeal of a level 3 grievance?
I move that the board deny the level 3 appeal of Ms. Lane, thereby upholding the decision of level 2 hearing officer.
I have a motion by Greg Miller, a second by Dennis McFarland. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. The board has voted to deny the level 3 appeal filed by Ms. Lane, thereby upholding the decision of the level 2 hearing officer. Ms. Lane, you will receive written confirmation of the decision. The board will now move to the next agenda item, and the board will have a short 5-minute recess to allow everybody to get back into their respective places. Time 7 p.m. Next, we'll move into stakeholder communication. Okay, do we want to do high school phase 2?
High school first? Yeah. I was going to turn the lights down so we can see the picture. Good evening, Robert McNutt, the project superintendent for the Godley High School Phase 2 project, the work that's going on right all around us here. Wanted to show you guys some exciting stuff here. If you look at the CTE building, you can see here where we had the slab in and we started going vertical with the cast-in-place columns. If you look at the next slide, you can see all of the cast-in-place columns have been placed over in the cast-in-place beams have been placed in section D, which is the right half of your CTE building, and the formwork's up for the beams on section E, which is the south half or the left side of your screen. You can also see the crane in the background there. Structural steel has been delivered to the site, and you can see the structural steel being placed there. I was hoping we turn the lights down where you can see the pictures, but if you look there, you can see structural steel columns. This is a mixture of concrete and steel here that supports this building. So you see the structural steel columns placed there and some of the beams as well. So going vertical with the CTE building and getting your four-story building, the four-story building going vertical. So here you can see a few weeks ago when we showed you guys the CTE building on the left, and then on the right you can see the crane there and see the structural steel and concrete combination that makes up the second floor, and continuing on with those columns going up. Next screen, the next shot is just looking from the softball, baseball side up at the CTE building. So this is the columns being formed up, the concrete columns being formed up. Now you look over to the right side of the screen, you can see those concrete columns there, and you can see the concrete beams for level 2, the formwork for those concrete beams. Over to arena, the grade beam work over there for the foundation, as well as the plumbing that you can see on the next slide. So now there's, I'm sorry, that was the previous picture that we showed you a few weeks ago. Here's the picture now with the additional grade beam and foundation work going on in the arena. And the next picture, you can see the underground plumbing system, the suspended plumbing system going in the arena in preparation for the slab to be poured, all the ground level slab. We looked at the connector road last time. We showed you this picture where we were going to pour concrete and how far we would be tying steel. And then come to the next page, you can see the concrete's all placed all the way up to the almost to the creek here, and we've got formwork in place around that last turn there to the right, and we're working towards getting the culvert inspected and continuing across the culvert, tying in right there at the old ag barn or close to the middle school. And that looks like that is all of my slides. Did you guys have any questions about what's going on at in the CTE in the arena and the phase 2 construction work?
On the road between the ag facility and our campus, is that a curved road, or will it?
No, ma'am. There was a curb up by the new ag facility, and it called for a transition, so we have a transition curve. So for a little bit of the new, there's a curve, and it transitions down to no curve. So it's just dirt on either side of the road there. There's no curve in that. There's quite a bit of road and quite a bit of curve, so it was quite a bit of savings to the district by not including a curve for that long road.
And there's not a sidewalk planned at this time?
No, ma'am. Not in the current plans.
Question for you. I believe last time we discussed a JSUD delay here at the arena area due to some water line and such. Have we been able to recover any of that delayed time frame to the substantial completion date? I believe it was like January 29.
Yeah, I didn't make the presentation last month, but I did watch the video of the presentation to understand the questions there from last time. And we did share something, a date in January 26th, and we worked with the schedule and the sequencing of activities, and we're currently tracking for December 7th of 2023. So that's an improvement there in mitigation and recovery to those days that were impacted by the JSUB water line and the redesign.
Okay, just confirming, you said December 6th, 2023? December 2nd? 7th.
December 7th.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Good evening. I am Ryan Clark, Client Executive for Centerfield Monticus, and I'll be giving the elementary school update this evening. Basically, we're showing progress. This is the administration area, Area 1, from October 21st to today. This is, the first one is, I believe, that's the reception area, and then we're showing you another angle of the work area break room there. You can go to the next, please. So this is where you're probably going to see some substantial changes here. This is area 3. We had pergola steel going up. That's that red iron that you see in the left-hand picture. The right-hand picture, you can see flooring prep going on, new flooring going in. Going back and looking towards, you can see the learning stair back in the far on the right-hand side. If you can go to the next, please. Here's another angle of that area. Carpet flooring going down on the learning stair with the carpet patterns in the area 3 library area. You can go to the next. Biggest here is left-hand side. You see we have the carpet down. This is area 4, but today those packages, that's all of your furniture arriving to the elementary school, which is being taken in and then actually delivered to the classrooms where it goes. If you could go to the next, please. Another picture, this is area 5, so you can see the stage, no flooring, last update. We have the flooring ongoing in there, cleaned out very well. Go to the next one, please. Just another area, so what we're doing in all these classroom areas, this is area 7, so we're performing punch lists in all of these areas, getting final clean done in anticipation of furniture hitting the site and being distributed. If you could go to the next one. Area 8, same, we've removed the plastic down there in anticipation of furniture being delivered. And the next one, and then this is a cool view. Glenn, was this one taken today? Because that looks like furniture that I hadn't seen be delivered this morning. So yes, we've got all your furniture coming in, a nice overview up high looking at area 3, your media center, into your cafeteria area and the stage in the background. Let's go here. Oh, was that it? A couple of other things that are going on here right now. We're going to be turning over the school for teachers December 6th. That is going through. We met with city officials, fire marshal last week, did a preliminary walk of the building in anticipation of getting our finals, and so we've got them on board, walked the entire building with them, just trying to get ahead of any questions that they had. So we've got a good running list, and they're available to do this by sequences for us. Whenever we have a area ready, they'll be able to come in, find what's out there, and then move to the next. It's not going to be an all-for-one deal. They're going to come in and get specific areas ready for us. We have test and balance going on right now as well for your HVAC systems. life safety testing is going on, so your fire alarm, etc. If y'all come by, you'll hear that ringing out, etc. One area of concern is the gymnasium right now, and I believe y'all walked last night. I'm not sure if y'all looked there. That one is going to lag a little bit behind right now, but it's going to be a fully operational gym for you. We have to go through all of our storm shelter certifications, and we did get a little news on our bleachers that were delivered when they were being unloaded from the truck. Some of the parts got damaged, and so we're waiting on those replacement parts. So right now, those are scheduled to come around Christmas break, somewhere in there. It's a 2-week installation process there for those once we get the parts in. But one thing is, you will have a fully operational gym. The bleachers, we may just be installing those at night and getting those operational for you. So other than that, y'all have any questions?
I have a question about the rest of the windows that need to be put in. Do we have those in stock, or?
Yeah, they are being delivered this week. So yes, whenever y'all walked last night, you probably did see a little plywood and a couple of openings right now. There's some mismeasurements on a few of those pieces, specifically up on the second floor where you have your balcony areas right in there. Basically, we had to get the concrete down, which took a little while to confirm design, et cetera, there, but we got that worked out, took the measurements, but the windows are hitting in here, so you will see full glass in every opening there by the end of this weekend.
Marty, how's everything coming there technology-wise? I think you said that almost all the cameras are up, card readers will be up soon, everything's on schedule.
Everything's on track.
Dr. Deere, the teachers all put a lot of their things in storage and the containers. When are those going to be delivered for them to be able to get access to their
Melissa, do you know the exact dates the bins are being delivered?
Yes. So we have a process that actually a lot of the stuff they have in their rooms, we send the bins back. So the bins will be coming back to the teachers on December the 7th. They'll have a full week to pack the things in their classroom, and then those bins will be moved out on December 14th and 15th. And then we have a phase-in process to allow teachers time then to go out and unpack so that those bins can be unloaded and sent back so that we're not housing them over the break. And then the days that we have when we come back from the winter break, that Monday and Tuesday, they will have all the time they need in there. There's also weekends outside of the winter break that are in between each of those moves, which we have given the teachers flex days over the last couple of years. They had 3 last year if they were here and 3 this year if they were here. They have been encouraged to save those particularly for the move. If they work those days, they log that time and it counts as their flex days so that they're not out. And they're not required to do that, but that's an option. So we made sure that there was plenty of time, even if they stay late and go out there after school, then they will be able to clock that time so that they're not out time above and beyond the requirements.
I would like to hand to Dr. Block and Ms. Mack. They really took special care to make sure that our teachers didn't have to work during the break when other teachers weren't working. So appreciate that a lot. Any other questions for the elementary?
Dr. Deere, I did have a question. Probably should have asked you back when we were talking to high school. We discussed lights at the tennis courts, and I believe that's a part of this phase. It's being worked. Are we going to get an update on that in a bit? If I'm ahead, I'm happy to wait.
We're working with United Co-op, the electrical service provider here. We've got an easement for poles to be added from basically behind the old ag barn, coming over across the creek and servicing that with a pole top transformer. There's just some it's a long lead item that the utility can't give, which would be a larger meter. So we're trying to work that out with the electrical engineer to provide the power that's needed today and they're wanting something that's going to be for the future. So that's just working out between the co-op and the co-op and our electrician and Huckabee to make sure that we can get that on now. But we're looking at a couple weeks to have that approved so they can go ahead and install that. So the district has approved the easement. Just trying to get that scheduled with United Co-op right now. They ran into a long lead item on a specific type of meter, so we're trying to provide a meter that will meet your needs currently. So I think by the time you get back from the Christmas break, we should have that power out there. The poles are all up out there. I don't know if you've noticed, but all the light poles are up out there right now. It's just getting the service from the utility.
Follow-up question on, is it going to be accessible to where our coaches, players, if they're out there practicing in the evening, they can turn the lights on, or how does that facilitate?
Well, that would be a question for your facilities folks. I mean, once that's turned over to you guys, then you guys would dictate how that's accessed. I wouldn't be in charge of that at that point. That'll all be turned over to the district and accepted by the district at that point.
Maybe I didn't ask my question right. It's more of a design question as opposed to an operation question.
The intent is that some of those courts are going to be open to the community, and so it is accessible as long as we all make it so. Operationally, it is intended to be accessible to where it can be operated. Some of those courts on a timer.
Yeah, if I go out there at 9 o'clock at night and I'm ready to practice, I'd like to be able to flip a switch and be able to have lights.
That is the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move into superintendent reports.
Okay, as you can, well, do you guys want to see a couple of drone videos real quick of the two? We'll go ahead and show those two drone videos. One is the high school and one is the elementary. Mr. Flood, we need to slow one down a little bit and speed one up instead of okay. So we did gain a few this month. I think we gained 7. We're at 2818 now. See there are class level changes. Up at 190 this year, so we're almost up as much as we were last year. Go to the next slide, you can see that we're up 7 for the month, 143 from the first day of school, and 190 from the last day of school last year. So they're still coming in. I think the next are attendance. As you see, we're down a little bit in the month of November, down to 93%. If you go to the next one, you can see it by campus, I believe. Ms. Grimsley, I don't know what happened. You were in first place September and October. Now you're dead last in November, so we need to pick it up a little bit there. But I know brag a little bit. I know Dan is about to talk to you a little bit. We've got a whole lot of the crud going around, all sorts of stuff. Mr. Myers and the assistant principals or principals are still working with attendance incentives, but this month was, as you can see, a little bit lower. But this is a good segue to talk about attendance. Ms. Dammit, you want to go to the next one there?
Okay, this slide is just kind of telling y'all what's been going on in our office. Suzanne and Melissa are making phone calls and emails every day. Letters are being sent out automatically from the new truancy prevention system that we had. Conferences are being made after 5 absences with either the parent or parent and student. And then I've got a graph or chart just showing you there the differences from last year to this year. So we have come up, except October. Right now we've got flu, strep, and a bad stomach bug in a couple of the campuses. So we've got a lot of stuff going around right now, so our attendance has been low. But we'll hope to get that back up after we have the Thanksgiving break, and maybe everybody will come back well. So, also to brag, we've normally had Saturday schools by the first weekend of November, and we haven't had to hold one yet. So the kids have been able to make up their time because it hasn't been that much before and after school. So Suzanne and Melissa are doing a great job with their phone calls and emails and getting a hold of the parents. Next slide. This is from the new system that we're using, and this just kind of lets y'all know how many warning letters have been sent out, the second, third, and fourth warning letters, how many phone calls they've made, how many conferences they've made, and how many attendance contracts they've made. We've taken one to court, and that was today, and we hope we don't have any more. I'm not sure how many are on the verge of going that way, but hopefully not many.
So I want to hand to Ms. Allen and her team. You can obviously see that we're going through great lengths to try to engage our students and parents as much as we can before our students get into trouble, because they've got to be here to learn.
Yes, and this system too is helping us make sure that we have up-to-date emails and phone numbers and that kind of thing. So all of that is going via email, and we're not sending out the letters by paper. So we're saving some money there too, because this system will do it all through email. And so we're making sure that we have all the parents up-to-date emails. Any questions on that?
So, question, but it might be for Dr. Deere though. So, with the students that are getting warning letters, phone calls, etc., how can we be sure that they're actually getting their work done and they're not falling behind? I mean, this is about making sure kids learn. So, in my mind, it's important that they're learning something from it, and hopefully not just learning that they need to, they need to do something different.
That might be better suited to one of the principals. One of the principals want to jump in. Mr. Flood, you've never been shy about jumping on the microphone.
I would say students and making sure that they get them caught up. With
And I will say, through the phone calls, because they do go on in our office, and we all share the office, so we're all in there together. By making all of these phone calls, we have gotten lots of parents, they're logging their passwords to Skyward, so that they're checking on their kids more. They didn't know their child was skipping, or, we've handled a lot of problems through all these phone calls that are being made every day that, might not have been made. But, so we do have, more parents that are checking on their stuff that weren't logging in at all.
I have a quick question. How many absences does it basically take to end up having to go to court for your absences? How many, does the one in particular have?
We can file on a parent after 10 absences in a 6-month period. We try because everybody gets sick. We did start giving the 5 excused notes, excused absences per semester, just to help with that, with the illnesses and stuff. But that's when we can do it, but we try not to do it right at 10 and to try to work it out with the parents first. And that's why we have the conferences and that sort of thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I know in the past we talked about how the court systems kind of have your hands tied. There's not a whole lot they can do anymore. Is that still the case?
Yes. Today, they were fined today.
So there is a little, seems like there's more than a slap on the hand. Okay, good deal. Thank you.
But the great thing about this process, when the courts see how much that we've done, they're more likely to back us when we just can't get a student to school.
Right. And today, the parent they weren't mad at us, they weren't angry. They took the kid's car away. He was mad at his child. He said it is his fault. He had a new car and now he doesn't. And I will be taking him to school.
So Dr. Deere, follow-up question. Can we take a look at our goals for student progress and see is there a way to track progress during absences as a part of to what degree we are progressing? I don't know, I'm just going by memory, I don't recall having some point of evaluating that absences during our progress of students. So maybe we can take the action and see is there a way to work that in.
Well, that might be a good segue into what Mr. Carnes is about to present a little bit. So you use the magic words. Any other questions for Ms. Allen before we let Mr. Carnes go? Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
I just have a comment. I just want to thank you and your team for all the work. It's tedious and hard, and it's not fun being the bad guy. So thank you for everything that y'all are doing trying to get these kids in school.
Thank you. Mr. Carnes, tell us to what degree we...
All right.
Oh, did we skip one? Well, we'll come back to graduation.
Transportation update first?
Yes, sir. Go ahead and give us a transportation update.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I had next. Really not a lot to report. Our RSO count remains unchanged. Not up, not down. So, and then I had recently shown y'all, I believe, or talked to you about a bus, one of our new buses. There was a warranty issue with the frame kind of shifted, or an accident kind of shifted. That warranty work has been done. Bus is repaired and back in service. And then, but we do have another one that's in the shop that was struck by a vehicle, and so repairs are being made there. Not significant, but it did take the bus out of service. And then lastly, related to transportation, we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. All the principals and our transportation directors to be able to finalize our plans for Pleasant View opening and how that will affect transportation, and then make sure we have the plan in place, and then have spoken to Mr. Metter, and the communications about that plan will go out in short order. That way parents and families have enough time prior to the start of the new semester to know how they need to plan. So,
Questions about transportation?
Transportation.
Now, we accidentally skipped our graduation requirements, but I'll let you pick, Mr. Clarence. Would you like to go ahead and go forth with the community-based accountability system?
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. You're going to have to wait, Mr. Flynn. So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So, we've been taking chunks at this and learning as we go. So, we have brought to you all, we had started with 3 pillars, then we added the 4th pillar, and we've also brought you some signaling. So the bottom 3 pillars there we have brought to you previously along with the signaling. Really what we're looking at tonight is the top pillar. Pillar number 1, student learning and progress. So this is a district level signaling chart, and so I thought it important to include all 4 of them so we can kind of get a better picture of how we're starting to see this come together and where major support is needed. So like right away you can see the 2 red areas, and the key is there. So red is a major change where large changes are being made, and so you see that in pillar 1 at 1.2. That's happening at our elementary campuses, and then just for a note, you can see that also for engaged, well-rounded students, you can see a major change going on there at every campus except for the high school. So that that helps us to know as well where our campuses are making those changes, so we know where to best and how to support them. What investment, if it's financial, if it's human resources, time, programs, people, whatever that may be. So right now we're looking at student learning and progress. Number 1, we had already presented those key questions to you, but additionally now we have the benefit listed there. So the benefit, learning basic academic and social skills, and so to what degree do we prepare our students with academic and social skills to succeed at the next level? And right now we're not making any significant changes, but there are some minor things that the principals are considering in the near future. 1.2, the benefit there, explore content at a deep level. To what degree do we support and create opportunities for in-depth learning? And so you can see that we have identified that there are some major changes going on there. And so that is around our American Reading Company. So another thing that as this is evolving is that you will start to see at the campus level signaling charts. You're going to start to see really a 3-year visual of this. We'll be able to look back 12 months, we'll be able to see where we are today, and then we'll be able to go forward 12 months. So down at the bottom on the legend there where you see OT, AN, and EA, within that signaling, we will be able to identify and note whether we're on track or not. We need to make some adjustments, or hey, we've reached the goal there. So you're going to see that, start to see that a little bit more, but that's specifically more at the campus level of signaling charts when those start to come up. 1.3, to what degree do we align learning to students' needs? And so you can see there that there is some minor changes being made at everywhere except for minor changes everywhere except the high school. And I'll let the principals speak to that in just a second. So 1.4, that learning can happen anywhere, anyhow, anytime. So to what degree do we support the belief that learning can happen anywhere? And so not a lot of significant changes there. They're considering some things in the high school that's making a minor change. So this is just an overview for us in this signaling chart for us, for you guys to be able to see where we're at with these things, progress that's being made, what we're doing. Our intent is that next month in December, we will bring you the key questions for our 5th pillar. Then in the spring, we'll bring pillars 6 and 7. In April, we will have an appetizer, if you will, to the full report that will come out in August. So we will be presenting some information on this with showing how we're doing, how well we're doing, how where changes are being made, and then next August, September timeframe is when we will have the full community report, really more in we're shooting for more like a magazine type format for that. So anyway, so I'm going to let the principals now kind of speak to some of the changes they're making that you can read from this. Ms. Dixon.
Good evening. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 1.1 and what we're doing at the elementary level. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. What we're doing at the elementary level regarding the maintain but consider a change. So some things that we are currently doing that we're maintaining are guidance lessons. We are enforcing our ROARs, which is respect, ownership, attitude, responsibility, and safety. We're doing shout outs with our kids for different accomplishments, one thing being achieving 100 steps in reading. Every time they do that, they get acknowledged. Positive office referrals, or students that are caught being legendary, something that we do at RBG. The things that we are considering changing are, one thing is that we're having Nikki Nix come to our campus to talk to our teachers about CTE. So we want to start seeing how to implement that at our level with our people. So that's a change we're considering and learning how to implement at the elementary level. The other thing would be, after this first year of being split 3 ways and bringing American Reading Company to all the grade levels, of just doing an academic reflection and considering what changes we need to make going forward into the next year. Thank you. Good evening. One of the major changes that we have decided to dedicate our energy to would be 1.2. To what degree do we support and create opportunities for in-depth learning? With bringing on American Reading Company, we have seen a shift in how students are learning. It's really individualized and in-depth. For example, this unit that they're on now, and it's, let me backtrack. We were last year in kinder and first, and 2nd grade dabbled a little bit in American Reading Company, and this year we have brought it all the way up to 6th grade. For example, this unit 2, is a really heavy science unit within American Reading Company, and the kids, my 2nd graders, their unit was on bugs. And so they got to pick their own bugs and really research their own bugs and learn how to write good constructed sentences based on their research and their parts of the body of the bug and what they're, they get really excited. You can ask any 2nd grader what their bug is and they can tell you all about it. So it's really in-depth, and there's different units down depending on the grade level. So we've seen a major change with not only the ARC core units, but also bringing in ERLA all the way through 6th grade, which is their individualized reading, reading on their grade, on their level. They have conferences with teachers, and we really meet them with their power goals. So it's been, like I said, individualized, in-depth, and we've seen good success from it so far. Any questions?
All right, and so the next one, the only thing I would say is you'll see that there's 2 red in 2 different areas. Those are actually linked together and both revolve around the ARC, just in different aspects. So just kind of want to link that together a little bit. 1.3, to what degree do we align learning to students' needs? And so you will see that this is a minor change that we have put into place. Once again, goes along with us looking at meeting the needs of the students with the curriculum, a little bit of adjustment to the reading and math. We've also looked at standards-based report cards through 2nd grade. That was traditionally kinder and first, and we've moved that to 2nd, so that we're really focusing on the students and not just a grade that they get on a paper, that we're really looking at those standards and their learning. The last one there, 1.4, to what degree do we support that learning can happen anywhere? So currently we have that one labeled as maintain, but consider a change.
Currently, we feel like we have things in place based on the building structures, field trips, teachers are using spaces in various parts of the building. They do collaboration within the classroom, but we labeled it consider a change because of the new building and the possible additions that we're hoping for to the RV and Legacy in the future, providing those collaboration spaces. So once those opportunities are there, then we know there might be an additional change we need to consider at that time, but we want to get those in place before we spend our energy on that and really want to focus on the curriculum pieces. And you'll notice that for the most part, elementary, we're working kind of, you'll see that they'll mirror each other because we're working as a pretty close unit right now since it's a new adjustment for us to have the 3 campuses, and we're working diligently to keep that consistency amongst the elementary. So we're working as a team on that.
Good evening. For the 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade campuses, the GMS, we have the minor change there for 1.3, aligned to learning is aligned to students' needs. That is focused heavily on our special populations, in particular our English language learners. We've noticed some gaps there that we need to address, and so we've worked with the program K-12 Summit. We are using that with our English language learners. Also working to provide extra planning time and support for our teachers to be able to work with one another, plan, use the data that is provided accordingly.
And for the high school, we're on the last one right now, making a change. The high school is a really unique and innovative campus. It's cool, the collaboration spaces, but it takes training for the children to know how to use them correctly. They like to go sit out there where they can just sit and they think they're getting out of class, they think they don't have to work. So we're working really hard this year on trying to teach them what the collaboration space is used for and how to use it effectively, and then to go back into class and keep working, instead of just coming out here to get on your phone or to get on the Chromebook and do whatever you want. So it's neat, but it's a challenge that we've kind of had to focus on this year. So that's our minor change. And I know the high school doesn't look like it's got a lot going on, but some of ours are in a couple of pillars coming up where we're really working with Ms. Nix on some things. So you'll see those coming in time. It's just the ARC was really big for the elementary school right now, and the high school has some other focuses that'll be coming up soon. So, questions?
All right, so compliments to the principals as always on the work that they've done and are doing. And so we'll be coming to you regularly like this, and I think it's been good. So Mr. Stevenson, to your question earlier about attendance and to what degree, where that will fit in, we'll be using multiple pieces of evidence. That's one of the things that's great about this as opposed to the STAR test, one test, one day. This really is looking more globally, what's really going on. At all the campuses throughout the course of the year, especially to our elementary, high school gets a little more, some different things added to their accountability pieces, such as graduation rates, for example, and with CTE. But our elementary campuses are really limited to really just the STAR test program. So with this, we're able to get a better picture, be better informed. You'll also see connections between where Mr. Fraser was talking about. One of these is our professional development. There's a connection there between the learning in progress and the changes that we're making there, and then the appropriate or associated professional development that will go along with that. So, but back to the question around the attendance, 1.1 there, to what degree do we prepare our students? We can pull what you're mentioning there as far as attendance. We can pull that in as evidence and use that to help drive that to see if a change is needed or not. And then we were laughing back there saying, yeah, maybe 1.4 could work because learning can happen anywhere, anytime. So maybe if they're absent, they can, right? So, anyway, so we're excited to present this to y'all. It's continuing to grow, continuing to, we think, just get better and better. And so, any questions?
Hey, not a question, but I do want to say thank you guys for putting the time and effort into it. Recall in July and August there was some apprehension about stepping out, jumping out there before we have it complete. This has come a long way, so congrats and thanks to every one of you, making it readable, understandable, presentable, and yet it's meaningful. So
Yes, sir.
thank you guys all the way around.
Yes, sir. And hope it continues to get better every time. So, all right, thank you.
Mr. Flood, you want to talk to us about graduation requirements?
So real fast, Mr. Carnes talked about it. The hospital is held accountable in a few different ways. One of ours is our college, career, military, and readiness standpoint. And for the longest time, one of the ways we've been doing that is we've been earning points by students taking industry-based certification tests, and Microsoft Word in our business information management class has helped us get a long way there. The state has now changed the rules on that, and the BIM class and the Microsoft Word test does not count at the same weight it has in the past. So we need to realign that. Currently, our students have to take 2 more elective classes to graduate if they're not on an endorsement plan. We're going to keep that policy in place, but we're going to start pushing kids more to either earn a college point or a career point before they graduate. And basically that means one of 2 things. The college point is relatively easy. They have to score high enough on an SAT, ACT, TSI, or take good credit classes. Or we can do another class if they haven't earned that where they can get their credit to be college ready. The career one is a little more difficult, and they have to take a completer course. They have to complete a program of study course. The best example is like our health science pathway, where they might have to take 4 courses in that one, and then pass the patient care technician test at the end to get the career point. So we're just aligning it more that kids will do that instead of taking the business information management class all the time. They're still taking CTE courses. They'll just take more that are relevant to what they need to do, which frees up a lot of options and choices for our kids so they can take the classes they want and not have to go take this one offshoot tech credit. It was valuable for a long time, and for a lot of kids it's still very valuable. Kids that want to run their own business or kids that want to be an entrepreneur, having those Microsoft skills can be very valuable. But for some kids, when they want to do band and maybe athletics and health science pathway, they run out of electives really fast because these health science classes are double blocked junior and senior year. So that's 4 of their 16 credits. So that BIM class kind of gets in the way of letting them choose what they want to do all the time. So to help align it better to what the state says we have to do and to give our kids more choices, we're going to start pushing kids to do the program of study pathways. And if there's a kid that still has something they want to do special, like debate, or the fine arts classes specifically are the ones that might take a lot of fine arts classes, some of the band kids that do 3 band classes at a time and are really gifted in it, then we'll work with them that they can graduate with administrative exception to some of those rules if need be. We still want them to be college ready if they're not going to get career ready, but just because the state doesn't recognize that fine arts is a career path they may choose, we will not limit them to that. We will still say fine arts can be a career path you choose, so we'll help you get ready because that's what you want to do with your life. So we'll exempt them from the have to do a career pathway to that's what your next steps will be. So that's just kind of what we're aligning it to. So it's just a change in practice, not policy, but what our counselors will do with our kids.
Does this adversely affect any of our students that are planning to graduate at the end of this school year?
No, sir, because the state of Texas is like a stair-stepping in, is that what you'd call it? They're kind of stair-stepping in how the BIM fades out over the next 3 years, and most of those kids have already gotten all the credits that they need to that point, so no, they're all on good pace right now. So
there is potential for it to impact our accountability ratings for this year. Historically, Godley has had 50 to 60% of our students earn an IDC and count as career ready on accountability ratings. Currently, using the rules that TA has pushed out for this year, we're at 27%, projected with some rough numbers. But that's why this work is important for us to start now, so that we can start putting measures into place. For me, it's really about finding an individualized plan for every student to learn who they are, learn where their aptitude and interests are, and not lock them into a tech credit that might not benefit them moving forward. This provides flexibility for our counselors to really hone in what the students' interests are, connect those interests with the future career, and then put them on a 4-year plan of action that gets them ready for that career, where all of their courses align and really benefit them in the end. And then we'll do the work on the backside to worry about the accountability piece. Because we want to do what's best for kids first. We also want to consider what the state says is best for kids in that conversation. And I believe that being college and or career ready is best for kids. They need to know what their next steps are after graduation. And if we can get them one or both of those indicators, then I feel like that's a step forward for students knowing where they go after high school graduation.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next, we'll move into the business portion of the meeting. And first, we'll consider the consent agenda items, which is the regular meeting minutes of October 24, 2022, district financial report, district tax report, district monthly investment and cash report.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
I have a motion by Craig, a second by Dennis. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll have a second review of the Godley ISD campus improvement plans for the 2022-2023 school year. Dr. Cobb.
Yes. Just wanted to bring the campus plans back to you again, see if you had any questions. There have been no changes since last month. Everything you just heard from the principals is included in their campus plans. We're building it all around the pillars and just continuing to build that out. Of course, with a few of those compliance pieces are built in, but I don't believe there were any campus changes to their plans from last month. Did you have any questions on them? Okay, we'll be back next month for final approval.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Calder. This item is information only and no action will be taken at this time. Next, we'll consider approving the Godley ISD Godley ISD District Improvement Plan for the 2022-2023 school year.
So just to bring this back again, this is our third month. We did take it back to the district site-based committee, district improvement committee last week. Put it back in front of them again to ask for any more feedback. We've talked about it in our cabinet meetings a few times. I did give you a few changes from last month. They were mostly procedural, just double checking where everything was checked off throughout the plan. I put all of those changes in red, so you could notice where those additions were. But for the most part, everything, all the T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted. We will make one more adjustment in January after we get our accountability ratings and information in. Then we'll have an open meeting to review that, and we'll bring it back one more time just to say this is where we are, but this will be the final approval for this year. The next one will just be information for accountability reasons. So any questions before approval?
Yeah, so pending approval.
Yes.
When would this be updated and distributed and made available via the website? Now or tomorrow? Or will it wait until after the January update?
We will put it out this week as the final plan, but then it's a living document is kind of what we say. So as we spend money and we go through and mark what we've spent, the funding numbers may change just because you'll see where the money has been spent in different places. Then we will update it after we get our federal and state report cards, and then we'll just push all of that out again in January or February. Once we get all of that. But the final approval will be this copy, and we'll put it up tomorrow or in the next few days.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I make a motion to approve the Godley Independent School District Improvement Plan for 2022-23 as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Craig, a second by second by Terry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll now consider a change order to Godley High School Phase 2 scope.
Okay, if you'll remember, this was our plan change. When we approved GMP2, we knew that we were going to make this, or approve this coming on. This was, basically it's RFP1 and alternate 1, but Aubrey's going to talk about it now.
Yeah, like Dr. Deere said, this was always scope planned in the bond. We just kind of went back and forth on does it belong part of phase 2 or part of phase 3. Once phase 3, the practice gym got postponed, it made sense to put it back into phase 2 just because of its proximity to the arena. And so RFP1 scope does include the visitor side bleachers, concession and restroom area that supports the stadium and the arena, and some locker room space below. So again, always part of the bond, just kind of went back and forth between the phases. And then this also includes alternate one. Now that we've received bids for all of the remaining projects in the bond, there were funds available to approve this alternate for the extension to the two-story connector on the south side of the campus. As far as the timeline and how this impacts phase 2, it does extend the substantial completion date to mid-January. However, we have been in conversations with S&P that it will not impact the substantial completion date for the CTE side. That will remain the current contractual substantial completion date at the end of October. And even though the arena and the RFP1 scope are tied together, S&P is still making efforts to hold to the December date for the arena itself that was shared earlier tonight.
So I understand that our dates are tied to contract specific dates. So is there a way that we can document this mod with the different date from the rest of the dates? Again, document it in the contract somehow, so there's no misunderstanding and we get a year down the road and go, what happened? How are we 3 months late or something?
Yeah, change order number 1 obviously has not been executed yet since you have not approved it, but if you approve that tonight prior to the execution, we can separate those substantial completion dates.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question. Is there anything that you can see or foresee with, if this is approved, that could cause those substantial completion dates to push further at either the CTE or the arena? Is there anything that you can foresee if we add these additions that could cause a problem?
No, there are some tie-ins with the existing arena, which was part of the original contract in this RFP1, but that we can create a clear line of delineation there. In between those, the CTE is the CTE. It's completely separated from this scope of work. So we can create the line of delineation there and say, yes, these are the substantial completion dates, A, B, C, however we want to revise the change order to read.
Thank you.
I move the board approve the change order to Godley High School Phase 2 scope and presented and recommended.
A second.
I have a motion by Terry, a second by Marissa. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We'll now consider the guaranteed maximum price number 2 from Reader Construction.
This is phase 3 by Reader. The last board meeting, we did approve some long lead items for phase 3, and this is basically the rest of phase 3.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about the details of what's included, but just to give you a little bit of overview, again, this is the final bid for the 2021 bond program. And as you know, there was some scope originally for Legacy and RBG. And just based on where numbers came in, we decided to, in conversations with the district administration, to postpone most of that scope. And we think there are advantages to doing so. One, those projects had got cut so many times just from the inflation conversations we've had over the duration of the bond, that you still have so much coming and whenever that next bond cycle occurs, that if we postpone these to that point, then you get a bigger bang for your buck by having a much larger scope of project. You're paying construction management once instead of in this bond cycle and in the next bond cycle by doing these in pieces. And you're only disrupting the campus once instead of twice. And so that allows Reader to just focus on high school phase 3 and a couple of the highest priority items that we still did want to do so that we're touching each campus. So I'll let you talk about the specific scope.
Thank you, Dr. Deere, board. Thank you for having us. So a little bit about the scope. RB Godley, we will still be doing the marquee sign out front, so you'll still be getting the new marquee there. Legacy, you'll get the marquee and the drop-off canopy. And then at the high school, it is the remainder of the scope that was not covered in GMP number 1. So for a total on this GMP would be $21,682,599. $21,682,599.
Pending approval, when would this, when would be the anticipated start?
So on the high school scope of work, we've actually already started mobilization there based on GMP 1 approval. So that scope moves right in with it. So we would be looking at a December start on the high school as far as the addition. Practice fields are already mid-November. We'll be out there working on those. Both of the elementaries would be probably during the summer, just so that we don't create disruption. A little bit along lead with the drop-off canopy and marquee signs themselves, but there's no reason to interrupt school to do that work. We would postpone that and just do that during the summer.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the GMP number 2 for Godley High School Phase 3, Legacy Elementary and RB Godley Elementary Schools in the amount of $21,682,599.
Second.
A motion by Craig, a second by Krista. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll now consider approving the child abuse, family dating violence, and human sex trafficking curriculum.
As you know, this is a new requirement this year. I believe some policy was passed and updated in the summertime. We've had, we've had 2 SHAC meetings, along with 2 public hearings about this curriculum as required. The SHAC committee has made no recommendations on what we presented to them. I've shared that with them. I've shared that with you. We've made it available for the textbook curriculum to be able to be viewed at the middle school. The other curriculum that I've included there with your board packet, the links, those are public. And those have been made available on the agenda that we posted. And when we send out the opt-in form to parents with the 8th graders, those links are live, so they can click on those links. And we've also given access, or we've given ways for parents to come up and view the textbook curriculum for federal law. We can't publish that. So that'll be taught in December based on approval. And then Coach Blue will teach it again in May. And so she and I talked the other day about that. And it's 8th grade health is when this will be taught. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So during the SHAC committee meetings and the public forum, was it public forum? Is that what
Public hearings.
public hearing, thank you, I knew I had that wrong. Were there any concerns brought up by any of the SHAC committee members or parents that attended the hearing at all?
Yeah, not really. I wouldn't say concerns. The second meeting, there was little to no discussion. Of course, our SHAC committee is made up of a majority of parents as required by law. And so we had a majority there at the first meeting. Some discussion was brought up about the video. Not necessarily inappropriate, but intense, which we all agree this is a very intense subject. These students are facing things that I think most of this room wouldn't have to worry about when we were their age nowadays. And so it's a very tough subject. That's why parents have to opt into it. But other than the intensity of the video, which we found, Ms. Evans and I found that online, shared that with Coach Blue, and she looked at it, it was from Ken Paxton, our State Attorney General. And again, intensity was kind of the concern, but it wasn't anything inappropriate. That was about all the discussion that was had. Everything else, everybody was good with.
Were there other videos that you looked at as well?
Yes, I looked at some other things and I did not feel like they were, Miss Evans and myself didn't feel like they were appropriate for school. Some political things thrown in there that we didn't think were appropriate. This video seems to tell facts, and it really reinforces statistics, and it opens up your eyes about really the problem that human and sex trafficking is. Part of the video shows a suburban neighborhood that you would not think it happens, and there was a big money-making operation in that neighborhood that a guy just took pictures of cars driving by his house all hours of the night, and it turned out to be a large sex trafficking ring. And so it was just in a regular old neighborhood, and so it's very eye-opening. And I think the students will be well informed with it. But to answer your question, just about the intensity of the video and some of the details that were talked about was the only concern brought up during both meetings. Did I answer that okay?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And you may have already said this. I was reading a little, but is there an option for the parents to see this video prior? Is there a way that they can request to see that?
Oh, yes. Well, in the
Or
opt-in
get a
form,
link?
when we send it to them, it'll have the link.
Okay.
And then in the opt-in form, we've got information about how to reach the school. And if we don't get the opt-in form, students cannot participate in that. So if we don't, I asked Ms. Fisk, the counselor at middle school, what about if we don't get a form? That's a no, you cannot participate. So by signing that form, or completing that form, they've said they've viewed the information and have approved it. But in that form, we have that link to that video. I've also included, in case that link's not working for some reason, how to Google search it. And so I've even given directions on that, how you can Google what the name of the video is and where you can find that by Google searching it. So hopefully we've made that very clear. And she doesn't have to show the whole video, can show parts of it. I just wanted to be included that it would be in the instruction.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
The form will be sent electronically for electronic signature. How will that be disseminated to the parents?
That's what the middle school has done in the past. I'll work out those details with Ms. Fisk, but that's what she had requested that we do, because that's what they've done for this sex ed curriculum as an opt-in, and it has worked well in the past. Obviously, if we come across a situation that we don't have internet access, we'll get something done that way. But I asked her that very question, and she said it's been successful in the past, so we thought we would try that again, or she wanted to try that again this year. I've worked very closely with her through this. She's been very helpful.
Can we make sure to use other forms of communication to inform parents that digital information is coming to them, whether it be social media or through Skyward alerts or however we want to do that? That way parents know to look for it.
Yes, ma'am. I work with Jeff in communications, and we'll make sure that that's posted out multiple ways. You bet. We can do that.
I make a motion to approve the child abuse, family, dating, violence, and human sex trafficking curriculum as recommended and presented.
I'll second.
A motion by Craig, a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. The time is now 8:14 p.m. and the board will move into closed session.